Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley, and this is a historic church in Shropshire. This is the church of St Luke, Sambrook. Now this is, as you can probably tell, a Victorian building. It seems to have been built in the 1850s. There's no evidence of any earlier fabric here, and the earliest vicar is in 1856. And all of these, of course, are clues that say this is a Victorian building on a new site. This is not far from Telford, and this isn't, well, yeah, it's not far from Telford. It's also not very far, it's even closer, in fact, to Newport, Shropshire. And in the Middle Ages, many English rural parishes were quite big, particularly in these more sparsely populated areas. But also, quite often, they would have these chapels of ease within them. And as the population of England goes up in the 19th century, so there is a need to build new churches, and some of them are done using central funds. Many of them are built with donations given by local landowners. And that's much of what happens here, that local landowners give to build a suitable church. Now, this is not an enormous building. This is, in fact, a building of fairly modest, moderate size. You've got a nave, chancel, you can see an aisle over there. You can just about see an archway there. And this sort of form is normal. It's built out of local sandstone, and it's built in a medieval style. The style here is sort of roughly, it's a little bit of early English, but a lot of it is 14th century because that's what the Victorians tended to like. And so we'll go around and we'll see some of the features here, and I must be aware there's a clock here. I'm not sure it's going to strike during my tour, so if it does, well, then we'll hear the clock striking. There is no tower. Quite a lot of these places, again, they don't have towers, they have a little bell cot, and that's it. So we'll have a look around and see what we can see. As you can tell, I'm recording this in summer. It's the hottest day of the year, apparently, so far in 2024, and the video is going to be going out, I think, in January, so don't feel cold. I'm not cold. And here's a little bit of summer to perhaps warm you up a bit. So let's go and have a look around. As usual, then, we start at the west end, and we can see here, there's that aisle I talked about. It's a north aisle. That is, if there's just one aisle, you tend to find a north aisle, not a south aisle, just because you get more light coming in generally on the south side, so it doesn't make very much sense to have a little aisle blocking out most of your light. Sometimes you find that something the lie of the land or something like that, but normally, if there's only one aisle, it'll be on the north side. The font, of course, is Victorian, although it follows medieval precedent. These medieval fonts were big, deep, because you had to dip an infant into it. Whatever the practice was elsewhere in Europe, in England, the practice of immersion was normal through into the 17th century. We know this because that's what the Book of Common Prayer says. It says the child is to be immersed unless there's a good reason why not. Typically Victorian, you will see beyond the stone pulpit. Stone pulpits are actually quite rare in the Middle Ages, particularly in places like this where the local stone, yes, you can build a pulpit out of sandstone, but they didn't do it very often. But the Victorians really liked them, so that's what you get in a Victorian church. The seating here is all, as you can see, original, and these pews without doors are typical for the Victorian era. There is quite a bit of stained glass here. We've got here St Francis of Assisi and David the Psalmist, and then up in the top you can just about see St Cecilia the organist, and this is a memorial to Alfred Robert Tomlinson, who was organist of the church for 51 years and died October the 11th, 1947. Just got some patterned glass here, but the main stained glass, of course, you've got these two big windows in the nave, and so here we have memorial in memory of, was erected by Jane and Isabella Veitch of Deepdale, in loving memory of their father, mother, brothers and sisters. So this is the Veitch family. Maybe there's a member of the family watching this, and you can see this is the raising of Lazarus. Unfortunately, it has been slightly damaged. Someone has, but thankfully it's only slight. But you can see Mary, of course, on the one side with her hair loose, indicating, well, that she's the youngest. And then you've got Martha on the other, and she's got the keys because, of course, Martha's the busy one. And then in the middle we've got Jesus and Lazarus. We have here the memorial to William Thomas Minshall, only son of Thomas and Anne Minshall of Pickstock, signaller, South Wales Borderers, who gave his life for king and country in France, April the 12th, 1918, age 19. The first patrol leader of the Sambrook Boy Scouts, called to higher service. And then here we have Luke, the beloved physician. This is memorial to Samuel Clark, who was the first vicar here, 1856 and 1900. And of course Luke, because this is St. Luke's Church. There's that closer view of that big stone pulpit. And over here we have the organ. Obviously we've got these zinc coated pipes in the front, and then the actual working pipes in the back. There's another stained glass window in there. And the chancel. And this again reflects very much this Victorian ideal, the Middle Ages as imagined by the Victorians. Ashlar masonry, which you do find around here actually. We've got a carved wooden reredos. We've got an interestingly plain stained glass east window here, just with the Ascension in the middle. And we still have the communion, well, the commandments on one side, and the Lord's Prayer and Apostles' Creed on the other. Sedilia, which are really simply decorative, because the whole liturgy of the Mass that the triple Sedilia was intended for just doesn't exist in, well, most Anglican churches in the Victorian era. You've got to be incredibly Anglo-Catholic to do it. Mother's Union banner. And then we've got these side windows here. We have here, sorry about that, that's me not noticing a step. We have Christ with the cup here, and when thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee. So we'll just go up here so we can have a good look west. Aha, the bells. And that's what it sounds like when the clock strikes here. So there we have it, inside here at Sambrook. And it is a gorgeous little church. So not very far from Telford. Actually, only about less than an hour from Stoke-on-Trent to get here, which is always nice. And we've got here the other side window. Thy brother shall rise again, and Mary hath chosen that better part. So that, of course, goes with the window of the raising of Lazarus over here. It's nice to see that sort of unity with windows. So that's inside here at Sambrook. So here we are outside at Sambrook. You can see behind me the red sandstone church. You can also probably notice that this red sandstone, although the inside is ashlar masonry, nice fine jointed stuff, this is a more sort of crazy paving effect, which tells us, among other things, that this is just a facing attached to probably a brick core. In the Middle Ages, that sort of, you do get rubble churches, but if you can do ashlar, then you do ashlar on the outside, and not necessarily the inside, which of course could be plastered and painted. But of course this is the Victorians, not the medieval period. So we'll have a look around the outside here and then again see what we can see. And so here we are on the south side. There is, as you can see here, a line of yews, which makes it a bit difficult to get a full view of the building. But we've got this really nice little wooden bellcot up there, covered with wooden shingles. Really good examples of this wooden spire. And then down here we have the memorial, the grave of Reverend Samuel Clark, the first vicar here. The man for whom this church would have been built, or that came here when it first opened. And here's that crazy paving sort of effect. And medieval rubble doesn't look like this. But this doesn't matter because, of course, this isn't a medieval church. This is a Victorian church. And they have their own rules and their own ideas. Just backing up here so you can get as good a view of the building as I can. It's a very handsome example of this sort of Victorian structure. And here we have the the east end with its window, and you've got this decorated tracery here. There's the spire, beautiful structure, and over there you can see that's the schoolmaster's house, or was the schoolmaster's house. It's attached to what was the school, what's now the village hall. Very often, of course, school and church were built together, and school and church have a shared mission, uplift and such like. You can see there's the end of the aisle with the vestry going off. And as we go around here, you may hear the sound of helicopters. That's because there's helicopters flying at the moment, the military. There's the War Memorial. There could be some friction with war memorials being close to parish churches, because of course in the Victorian era you do have nonconformists, and they could be quite upset with this idea that just the, particularly obviously if they'd lost people and if their people had gone off to war, which was normally the case, then they could be quite upset with this idea that, oh well, the remembrance is all about the Anglicans, the parish church, rather than the whole village. And so there we have the north side. You can see there is a modern block attached to the end of the vestry. That, of course, is the facilities. And it's the same sort of crazy paving front, the crazy paving facing as you have with the rest of the building, which is quite nice. So we'll go round to the west end because, of course, you've got that turret and you've got the clock, and you do have the windows there at the west end. Again, have to be careful because of the gravestones. It isn't, of course, an ancient graveyard because of the history. You can just see there, that building there, that would be the old vicarage. So you've got school, church, vicarage, and the three of them form this unity. So there's the vicarage, which originally, of course, as with so many, it's not used, it's been sold off. And one of the reasons is they're so big and rambling. It's all very well for a Victorian gentleman, but a modern clergy would find it difficult. So that is St Luke's, Sambrook, and you just see there is the clock on the west end. So there you have it, St Luke's, Sambrook, a lovely example of one of these Victorian Gothic churches that is very much asserting itself, but also is part of this desire to increase the reach of the C of E. And it's a realisation on the part of the C of E that actually they can't just rest on their laurels and go, oh, we're the Church of England. They have to do something. Well, same is true today, and it's not, unfortunately, one of the problems the C of E has these days is that it's not sure which England it wants to be the church of. One would suggest that it needs to be the church of all of England, not just the cities, not just the south, but also to serve the Midlands and the north, and to listen to its parishioners to listen to the people who are coming to the church, because it's all very well to say, oh, we need to do things to get in the people who aren't coming, but if you drive away the people who are coming and you don't attract the people who aren't, well, what have you done? You've become a disaster. Anyway, didn't mean to add those thoughts, but there we are. So thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.